back to my channel for another video. My name is Kaylee. I am a Jacksonville, Florida film, wedding, and portrait photographer, and I'm really glad you're here today. If you're new around here, this video is part of a series where I take you on my film journey session by session, so hopefully you can learn something from my wins and my losses. I started shooting film in 2017, and the very first of these videos started with my first session I shot in 2017, and all the way up to this session, which I believe was in maybe April of 2018, I think. So April 2018 was this particular session here. So a little bit of background on my film narrative so far is that I started on a 35mm Canon EOS Elan 2E, mounted with a nifty 50, and I started shooting on Portra 400 because that's an obvious choice for beginner film photographers. It's got great latitude exposure, or exposure latitude, and it's got just really great tones that are very realistic and very true to life, and so it's a really great film to start with. And so up until this point, I've been shooting exclusively Portra 400. This was my second roll of FujiPro 400h that I grabbed a hold of because just like a lot of other film photographers out there, you start on Portra and then you see how beautiful Fujifilm can be, and so you grab a roll and you're hoping it'll come out light, bright, and airy, and then it doesn't, and it kind of is a crash and burn. But the good news is that this particular session is the worst that it gets with FujiPro 400h in my series of sessions. This is the low for me, and then it gets a lot better after this. So the things that we're going to talk about today, the lessons that we'll learn today, are going to be about the Fujifilm stock itself, and then we're going to talk about scanners too. You're going to see duplicates here, and that's because I had these scanned in on two different scanners, Noritsu and Frontier scanners, I believe. I personally prefer Frontier scanners. I like it because it's more neutral, and I still to this day use the Frontier scanner, but at this point in my film journey, I didn't know what scans looked like from the Noritsu scanner, and so I requested with my lab that they scan them in on two scanners and send me two sets of scans. So, all right, let's talk about the Fujifilm stock in itself. And so if you are not new around here, and you've been around for a while, you know that so far in my film journey that I have not been using a light meter. Yep, sorry, still not using a light meter at this point, and that was a big mistake with Fujifilm. With Portra, you can get away with not using a light meter because you can overexpose by a stop or by a third of a stop or 2/3 of a stop or 1/3. I mean, you can expose even up to maybe 2 stops and maybe 3 stops, and it will still be usable. You can even underexpose Portra by 1 stop or 2 stops, and it still be fairly usable. And it'll be a bit before you start to see color shifts. But with Fujifilm, it has a really beautiful exposure latitude, but a really picky exposure latitude. You can't underexpose Fuji very much because you'll start to see color shifts in the shadows, like you do here in some of these images. And if you want to go for that light, bright, and airy wedding photographer look that many people like in the wedding industry, then you're going to need to overexpose Fuji with a light meter, at least 2 stops overexposed, like at the very least, which is really incredible. But it's just not like you can't get that light, bright, and airy look by just overexposing by 1/3 of a stop or 2/3 of a stop and just guessing. I feel like it's a very specific kind of metering style, and you need to meter specifically for that light, bright, and airy style that you want. So Fujifilm is a very cool toned film. It has green and cyan undertones. You can see that in many of these scans here that everything just looks green, which yes, I had color casting going on from all the green of the mango tree going on, but it's got major green casting in the shadows, which is really brought out by the Noritsu scanner right here. So 1 through 6 is Frontier, and 7 through 12 is Noritsu. So now let's talk about scanners. The top scanner here, Frontier, is a cool toned scanner, and Noritsu is a very warm toned scanner. That's 7 through 12 here. And so I'm just going to do a quick edit and run through these and just point out a couple of things just for you to take and do with what you will. If you've never used Frontier, I suggest give it a try. If you've never used Noritsu, I suggest give it a try. But let's go ahead and look at these side by side really quick so you can see some obvious differences. So here's Fuji and here's Noritsu. So a quick disclaimer, I was excited about the idea of this shoot, but after I got these scans back, it was so anticlimactic and I was so embarrassed about these that I told myself I was never going to let these scans see the light of day. So you guys are special that you get to see these scans. I took some digitals of this day, but I ended up using the digitals only, like on my blog, and I'm glad I did because these were just, ooh. So, the image here on the left is Frontier. You can see it's definitely more cool toned, and the green is prominent, but it's very light, as characteristic for a Frontier. Frontier is very neutral. And then over here you've got Noritsu, which looks, whoa, green, like way green and yellow. It's definitely warmer, and I think that those warm tones really make the greens pop, like a lot. So those are those two side by side. Let's do the, ooh, there we go. So here, Frontier and Noritsu, you can definitely see the greens in the shadows coming out here. Like this is way, 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 way green here in the shadows. And if I zoom in, you can see that there is a difference. You see a lot of green in her dress here, whereas not so much here on the Frontier scanner. So pretty much we know, pretty much we see and we know that Noritsu is a warmer, and a, I wouldn't say it's green, but it kind of is, but definitely just warmer, and the warm tones really bring out the green there. So this here is one of my favorite demonstrations of the effect and the power of what scanner you use. Because if you look here, you see like big time differences in the tones of both of these scanners. So I was actually really pleased with this. I actually think this was my nifty 50, and I was really pleased with the depth of field and the sharpness here, because everything else was very like hazy and underexposed, and it just looked super grainy. But these here, this is one of the images that still looked pretty sharp to me, and I was really excited about it. But you can see it's definitely cool here and definitely warm here. And the two places that you see it the most is in the saturation of the greens and the reds. Like, look at this. This looks almost edited already, because it's so saturated. And this is very muted and neutral, which is characteristic of the Frontier scanner. So you can see here that the greens are more cool, and then here the greens are more warm. If you were to shoot Fujifilm and have it scanned in like on neither of these and have it just be as basic as you possibly can, the greens are going to be more towards this type of tone. They're going to be more cool. But the Frontier again is warm, so it comes out warm. Next is this image here, which is also another really great example of the tones of this image. This almost looks like flat to me. Like it doesn't look very contrasty, but here, like this pops to me. Like the mango kind of pops out, and you can see some shadows and some detail and contrast in her arm, which I really like. Next is more mangoes. Again, this just kind of pops a little bit more. There's some poppiness going on here in this area, but there's just, to me, this pops just a tad bit more. And the color saturation obviously is different. You can see the color, like look how different that is. That's like, whoa, that almost looks orange. This is like more true red. And the wood, ooh, look at the wood grain. Wood grain is way different too. This looks more magenta-y, and this is more green. Next is this here. And she's so cute. I love her, but whoa, look how green this is over here. And this was way underexposed. This just wasn't working. You can just see how just grainy it is and how like almost flat it is. I think that she looks more naturally colored here, even though it's a little tad bit magenta for my taste. She looks a little bit more natural here than she does here, because this just fits her skin tone a little bit more. But this just looks like green, like way green to me. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to pick a few of these select to just add some presets to and see if I can salvage these, because I'll be honest, I haven't edited any of these. Even before, when I got my scans back, I didn't edit them. So this is a real first time edit that you're seeing. I just kind of ditched them last time. I didn't even give them a lot today. So, all right, so between these two here, I think I'm going to start with this one over here, the Noritsu, because I'm seeing some almost like her pink dress is almost like way too pastel-y for me. Like I want it to be definitively pink. And so I'm going to come over here actually and just do the Noritsu, and just do the Noritsu. So I'm going to hit develop, hit my basic preset. I'm going to take my saturation down by 5. I'm going to up my magenta a little and kind of balance that out. Oh yeah, that's looking a lot better. And then I actually might make this a little cooler, just a little bit. Okay. Ooh, nope, that's not before and after. Okay, so I think I'm going to be okay with this for now. I might bring up my contrast just a little bit because you know me and my pops. I like my pops. So yeah, I don't think there's really much else that I want to do to this in particular. Maybe I want to take my greens and cool them off. Oop, nope, that's red. Hang on. I'm going to take my greens and maybe cool them off just a little bit. Yeah, it's a little better. Maybe reduce my saturation just a smidge. Okay, well, I think that's good for now. I may not edit all of these just for the sake of time, but I want to edit this one right here. All right, so here we have this one. I ended up choosing this one because the green undertones in the other one were just a little bit much for me. So I'm going to add my preset here. Ooh, yes. I like. Maybe take care of some of those greens and the undertones by adding some magenta. Not that much. Maybe like this. Yeah. I might bring up my warmth just a little. Oh, yes. And then my contrast. Take down my exposure by like 2 clicks. Maybe bring down my magenta just a little. It's a little much. Okay, cool. And then maybe my highlights, bring it down just a little and make them pop. And I think that's all that I want to do with that one. I just want to do really minimalistic edits on this. So let's go to library. So I want to mark which ones I've edited. So I'm going to make sure that one's picked. Make sure that one's picked. Oh gosh, I love this right here. So I really want to edit this Noritsu one because it's so bright and so like already saturated almost the way that I like. And so I'm going to add my basic preset. I'm only going to bring down the temperature just like a hair, just so that we don't see so much yellows going on. So there's that. Let me take my shadows up just a little because I'm seeing some heavy like shadows here. No, maybe not that much. Maybe like this. Okay, and then my highlights can come down a little. And then I want the others to kind of pop. Okay. Make sure my thing is all the way up. Yeah, and I think that's, where's my, yeah, I took my saturation down, but I may want it back up just a click. Okay. Fine tweaking. Okay, and that one looks good to me. So there's a pick. Again, I'm going to pick her, scanned in on Noritsu. Add my basic preset. Work on my shadows. Oh yes, that really brightens things up like a lot. Work on my shadows here. Bring up my contrast a little. Let me see what the computer says about my nope. Let's bring up the magenta just a little. Yes, that evens things out for sure. And I think that's everything. Maybe I'll bring down my yellows just a little. I know I want it to be warm, but not that much. Okay, and that's good. Ooh, which one of these? Let's do this one because I'm not a big fan of the way the tones look over here. I like the contrast, but not the color tones. So let's do this. Add basic preset 1. This is my personal preset, and yoink, look at those highlights. Let's bring down the highlights and my exposure down to 40. I'm going to add some warmth. Oh, yes. Hallelujah. Look at how warm and beautiful that is. Oh, I love it. I'm not going to touch my green. Maybe I will. Yeah, I'll touch it just a little bit. And then down here, I'm also going to jack down my highlights just a little bit so it's not so overwhelming. Okay, excuse me. I'm sorry. I can't believe I just burped on this. We're getting to be real friends now, y'all. Okay, and I'm going to pick that, and that looks good to me. What do I do? Okay. And then lastly, I'll probably do this one because I said I liked her skin tone better here. So I'm going to add my basic preset, which is pretty much just a preset that adds a little bit of contrast, exposure, and then nothing on the tone. So literally there's really nothing else going on except I've brought my shadows up a little bit, whites down, highlights down just a little, and then that's it. So let's bring down my exposure to 40. Let's even do 30, just for fun, just for kicks. Contrast comes up a little so I can add more depth, bring back a little bit of depth here. I want to bring up her warmth just a little. Ooh. Ooh, nope. Yes. And then she looks a little bit green. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to take down those magentas just a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to maybe up my saturation just for grins and giggles, you know, just to add some more depth. So again, if you are new here, this is just sort of how I take you along. You can just see how I correct film scans, because my philosophy is that film allows me to edit a lot less and saves me so much time, and it's just inherently just a beautiful thing. Film scans are gorgeous, and so I don't have to really do much. So what you see here is just me making really fine tweaks to get to my end result of something that has a little bit more color and a little bit more pop in the highlights and shadows, and then it's a little bit more overexposed. So not necessarily neutral light and airy, but maybe let's just call it like a light and bright and poppy kind of color. Long live color, you guys. Long live color. So, yes, I'm still seeing a little bit of magenta. I don't know if I like. Let's just keep it there. Let's just keep it at 7 for now. Okay, and there she is. So let's go to. I'm actually going to pick her, make sure she's picked. I'm going to do flagged, and then these are the finals here of what I chose to edit. So let's look. 1, 2, oh, I love that. That's so pretty. 3, 4. It's funny because you look at this and this looks a little bit more like balanced than this looks a little bit green. Maybe I'll go and just like yank this up just a little bit and see how that looks like compared to for continuity. Yeah, that looks a little better. Pretty. I love that. That's so pretty. And that's it. Okay. Thank you for joining me again today. I am still really grateful and thankful that you are tuning in each week for these videos, as impromptu and unprofessional as they are. I hope that you learn something and that you get some takeaways from here. A fun announcement, my business, Kaylee Tripper Photography, has been based in the South Florida area for the past 3.5 years, but in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we are actually relocating and moving to North Florida. So if you are from the Jacksonville area or the First Coast or just the general North Florida area, leave a comment below or shoot me a private message or something just to say hi. I love connecting with you guys on here. I've had a couple people email me and message me so far, and I'm really grateful. So thank you so much again for tuning along, and I will see you next week.